Welcome back, my students, to another episode of Comic Class. And today, guys, we're going to be taking a look at Nick Spencer's The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, Friends and Foes. And yeah, this is another video in my Nick Spencer The Amazing Spider-Man Run retrospective series. And yeah, I'm going to be covering every volume that is released so far of The Amazing Spider-Man by Nick Spencer. And yeah, I already have Volume 1 out, so go check out that video before you check this one out. But with that being said, guys, let's jump right into the video. Let's go. So the volume starts off, guys, with the Vulture seemingly trying to put fear into one of his henchmen that kind of like betrayed him or something like that. And yeah, so the Vulture looks pretty cool in this outfit. I really do enjoy the way Nick Spencer's artist actually draws all of the Spider-Man rogues gallery. They have this real modern look, but at the same time they do hold the classic style, so it's just really cool to see. But the Vulture basically gets taken down by Taskmaster and the Black Ant. Now this will be important in the next 2 volumes with the Hunted story arc with Kraven the Hunter. So I want you guys to keep this in mind, that Taskmaster the Black Ant actually captured the Vulture. That's a very important plot point for that future story arc. So the Black Ant and Taskmaster are rounding up the same villains that are animal-based, which is a lot of Spider-Man's rogues gallery. But we'll jump into that when we get into the Hunted story arc. And yeah, so after this we get to see that Boomerang and Peter basically are showing their interactions of their friendship. And yeah, it's pretty interesting to see their interactions as friends. And basically we get to see that Mary Jane basically tells Peter that she likes the Boomerang, that he seems like a nice guy, which, you know, Peter isn't a fan of. But we also get to see that Randy Robinson is basically like the middleman for Peter and Boomerang, and basically telling him that he should give Boomerang a chance because he is trying to reform himself, and that everyone deserves a second chance. Which I think was a really cool scene in this book. It really does dive more into Peter and Boomerang's relationship. Now we get to delve even more further when Boomerang actually invites Peter to the bar with no name. Now this is a bar that all the Spider-Man rogues gallery frequents, basically, where they can be in their supervillain identity or not in their supervillain identity. It's a really cool, place. And basically in this area we get to see that Spider-Man and Boomerang really fit well in with the crowd. And Peter actually joins them in a game of trivia that is based off Spider-Man and learning more about his character and his rogues gallery, which is really cool that they make games out of Spider-Man. I mean, that's pretty funny to have a trivia night of Spider-Man. Now, while this is going down, we get to see that Boomerang and Peter basically are the target of a hit by the Kingpin. And basically, the Kingpin states to everyone in the bar that if they are managed to, take them out, there'll be a reward. So he sends a message to everybody. And it's a really cool scene. We get to see the Boomerang basically trying to fight off all the supervillains that are, from the Spider-Man universe. A lot of them are B/C class villains that are in this bar right now. So it's a pretty even fight. Peter basically picks up a gun and tries to defend himself as well. We just see that Boomerang actually sacrifices himself, takes a blast of energy from one of the supervillains for Peter. And this is where Peter uses a bluff to get himself and Boomerang out of this deadly situation. Now after this, Peter and Boomerang have this heart-to-heart where Boomerang basically tells him, why did you, not Boomerang, Peter tells him, why did you save me? And this sort of Boomerang states that he's really trying to show Peter that he is trying to reform himself and become a good guy. And this is where you get more into Boomerang's, backstory and what he's been doing lately, and that he's actually been trying to reconstruct some of his old friends as robots, and that just hasn't been turning out really well. And it's played as a comedy scene, but also a sad scene as well. It's just a very unique scene, and that makes you feel both emotions. At least it made me feel that. Now after this, we get to see that Kindred, the villain that was introduced in the first story arc, basically comes back and he basically intimidates the Kingpin, and what he does is he actually gets the Kingpin to bow down to him, which just shows the type of threat that Kindred actually is. And I can't wait to see him actually go toe-to-toe with Spider-Man, because I don't exactly know what his abilities are, but it seems like the power to decay things or have them be eaten inside out. I have no idea. But he uses like these centipede-looking insects, it seems. So we'll see. He doesn't look alive, so he could be like a zombie type villain. But I do think that they have delved into the recent comic issues with his character. So when we get to that volume of the story, then, you know, I'll have more to say. But yeah, Kindred making the Kingpin bow down to him was just awesome. This leads us into the second half of the story arc, which is, you know, most of the meat of the story arc. We're introduced to this lady that basically is part of the same band of thieves that the Black Cat used to, you know, be in charge of, or at least part of. And yeah, so we get to see that they're kind of like trying to steal the items, superhero items from superheroes, like Captain America's shield and Thor's hammer. So basically, we get to see that, you know, Peter and Mary Jane, we get to see how the relationship is working out throughout this time, and Spider-Man having to put on the costume to go meet up with the Black Cat. And the meetup with the Black Cat is pretty interesting because Felicia and Spider-Man just make a very good team, just like Batman and Catwoman. And yeah, it's just really cool to see them work together. They have a little bit of a fight, but then after that fight, they head out to go meet with that lady that was in charge of the band of thieves, it seems. So they're going to make their appearance to them. Now we get a little bit of development in this, you know, volume for Mary Jane, in that she goes to where Jarvis has these little like group therapy sessions for people that are married or dating superheroes, and it's just really cool, or, you know, just being a family member of a superhero. I really like how Ned Spencer put this in there because it shows, you know, that these people are regular people that are dating or married or even just family members to these superheroes, and that they have to deal with the danger too that these people possess because of their powers. And I think that's amazing. It was really cool to see how they handled their relationships, and it was cool to see Mary Jane's thoughts on Peter as Spider-Man as well. So after this, we get into the real meat of the arc where Peter and the Black Cat basically meet up with the lady that is in charge of the band of the thieves. And yeah, so after this, we get to see them basically throw down. We get to see them fight against her and her thieves, and it's a really cool action scene to see. And it's just, you know, it's just always cool to see Spider-Man in these panels, just, you know, throwing down. Same thing for the Black Cat. You know, the Black Cat's agility is shown throughout this fight with the thieves, and it's just really cool to see these two, you know, working together to fight against a common threat. But this is where we get to the very end of the story arc where the thieves, basically the lady, the main lady, she opens up a portal that's supposed to be taking all the items to some location, it seems. And this is where Spider-Man has the idea to use Miss Marvel's cell phone to kind of show the Avengers where they're all at. And once that happens, that basically gets them to, you know, evacuate, because they're not gonna try fighting against the entire Avengers. There's no way they'll beat them, even if they took away Captain America's shield or, you know, Thor's hammer. They're still just human. There's no way they're gonna fight those powerhouses. So they escape, and that pretty much ends the threat. Now we get to see that Felicia does state that they pretty much won, because they got to show them, you know, the people on how much they were able to steal. They kind of boosted their reputation and what they just did, and they're gaining a ton of money. So we'll see if they come back in a future story arc, but that pretty much is the end of these guys, the bandit thieves. Now after this, we go into the very end of the story arc where we get to see that Peter actually reveals himself to the Black Cat, Felicia Hardy. And this was a retcon, I'm guessing, earlier, in an earlier event, and this is the reason why Felicia doesn't know Peter's identity, because she did know it, and, you know, back then, like in the 80s and 90s. So I guess some event changed everything after Civil War. But after Civil War, Spider-Man did reveal his secret identity. I'm not, you know, knowledgeable of everything Marvel, so I'm not sure exactly why no one remembers Spider-Man's identity. If you know that, be sure to comment down below. That way I can read whatever story, or, you know, you can just tell me why this is the case. But overall, you know, as a self-contained story, when it's Spencer's run, I did enjoy this moment where they have this moment together, you know, revealing their secret identity, basically. And this is where we get the final page of the story arc, the volume, where Kindred basically says that he's going to take away Mary Jane, Felicia Hardy, and anyone that Spider-Man has feelings for, because he wants to be just him and Peter. Which makes you wonder, you know, what exactly is Kindred, and I'm hoping that that all gets revealed in the future story arc / volumes. But that's going to be all, guys, for Volume 2 of Ned Spencer's The Amazing Spider-Man, Friends and Foes. overall, I thought it was pretty good. I wouldn't say it was one of the greatest volumes I've ever read, but I feel like Volume 1 and Volume 2, and probably Volume 3 are all supposed to be set up chapters, basically, for the future storylines of the Amazing Spider-Man. Once we get to the Haunted story arc, the series pretty much picks up steam like crazy. Especially with the recent stuff with Kindred, I believe, already making his debut as a villain. It's enough to say that things really do pick up. So I'm not gonna give it that harsh of a judgment, as I did find enjoyment in it. So I would say if I had to give a rating, I would say it was good. Go check it out. Like I said, link in description down below to go check out it legally and support your local comic shops, or Comixology is the one that I usually put in the description. It helps support the comic industry. And yeah, that's going to be it. The next video will be Volume 3, Lifetime Achievements. The Nick Spencer Amazing Spider-Man run. That video will probably be out in the next day or two. Yeah, it's going to be awesome, guys. So be sure to continue watching this series of videos. Right now, I'm also doing the JLA Grant Morrison run as well. So if you're into DC, I'm going to be doing some DC comics as well, also Image. And yeah, until next time, guys, God bless you. And until the next lesson, keep on reading.
I am who I'm meant to be. I am who I'm meant to be. Over and out again. My future needed clarity.